Alright guys, so today we are going to discuss about copying the configuration to the new legal entity, because some of the time we have the requirement for the internal rollouts or for some of the customers where we have multiple legal entities in the scope, and we need to copy some of the data, master data, and some of the configuration from one legal entity to the other legal entity. It's a very old and the by default feature from Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. So today we are going to see how does it work and how it can help to reduce the time and effort that as a consultant that you can put in as your effort in the system. So for this example, we are taking one small configuration just to show you for this illustration purpose. We have two legal entities here. One is USMF and the other one in the other tab we have USSI. So let's go and see in the accounts receivable module. If I, let's say, go on to the method of payments, here I have 5 method of payment: check, cash, electronic, refund, and PDC, which is the post dated check. Similarly, if I go on to the USSI legal entity and check the same configuration here, we don't have any method of payments here. So to copy method of payment from one legal entity to the other legal entity, how it's going to work is you need to go under the workspaces, and under the workspaces it works basically as same as we do the import and export. The only difference is for the import and export you need to have your own Excel file and you need to import it onto the system. But here we have an option called copy into legal entity. Once you click on this copy into legal entity, the same framework will open and it will show you that how, and if you can see on to the import and export the projects that we do. So it's similarly the interface is as same as the previous one. So it requires a group name. So for instance, I will say method of payments. You can type whatever you want just for your discrimination purpose, like if you want to see later on what we have imported or copied onto the other legal entity. Here the data project operation type, you can see here it's export, import, and copy into the legal entity. So we are copying into the other legal entity. Just make sure your source legal entity is correct and your the absorber, or you can say the target legal entity, is also selected as correctly as you wanted. So for me, as I showed earlier, I'm copying the configuration from USMF, and here you can do it for the multiple legal entities also, but for me in this case it's USSI. Put the correct filter. Right now is set is to is no, but I will say exactly. Once this is selected, if you want, you can select multiple legal entities here also. And here, this is the main catch here. People don't understand that how the legal entities work or the data entity works. So you need to know as a consultant or as a user, before importing the data onto the system, you need to know the correct data entity here. So for this one, we have here, you can filter obviously. So here I will say customer and payment. So this is the data entity that we are going to import or copy from one to another, which means a customer payment method. Once I click on this customer payment method, add it onto my project here. So if you want to add more, you can add more. Similarly to the same operation, you can add the sequence also, because some of the configuration is dependent onto the other configuration also, and all the respective information you can see it from here, that from which module it is. Here it's account receivable. If you're using UK language, it will be sales ledger, and so on and so forth. Once this is done, there are two options to do the copy. One is copy now. If I hit the copy now, the screen will be stuck here till the operation is completed. But if you have the huge data and the data that you are copying from one to another legal entity, which means, let's say, the categories, the project, or some other configuration that you need to copy from one to another, so we recommend to use copy in batch, so that you can continue your own work in the other in the similar tab, and you can continue working. And once the batch job is completed, you will be notified under your notification bell icon here, and the work will be completed. And then you can come back to data management and see what is the progress, if it is a success, failure, and if it is a failure, then you can see why it's got failed. So right now it's a small one, so I will just click copy now. Once it is copied now, as I said, there it's a small data, so you can see on a blink of an eye it has imported, or you can say as a successful import or copy to the other legal entity with 5 records here. Created 5 because there was none onto USSI, and the total number is also 5. If you want to see the staging data, you can see it from here, the status. If there is any error or something, you will see the error messages here. Now let's move on to USSI here. As soon as I hit this refresh button, ideally all the 5 method of payment should reflect here. And yes, it is. So now this is how you can copy the data, or mainly the configuration, from one legal entity to the other legal entity.